Good evening and welcome to the annual Super Official, basically undefeated, Keep PounDENN Madden Sim. I'm your host tonight, Den. You can find me at Keep PounDENN on Twitter. Tonight's show is, of course, powered by Ortho Carolina, part of the Riot Network. And you can, of course, listen to and subscribe to the Keep PounDENN podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and on theriotreport.com. My co-host tonight needs no introduction, but we'll give him one anyway, fresh off a wonderful social media war with Cam Jordan. He's over at Tacos and Slurpees. Bobby's in the house tonight. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man, I feel good, man. I've beaten Cam Jordan more times than Cameron Newton has, so I'm good.
I love that. Yeah, that's and you know it's a new year, so I'm gonna have some wine. No beer tonight. Cam Jordan's
What?
on his couch watching wine. Watching wine, drinking wine, watching this. We'll have some too. We're kicking off the sim there over on the left, but on the phone right now, we are pumped to have our buddy Derek Ciapala. He's at Ciapala on Twitter. He is the co-host of Rams Talk podcast, also Rams Talk website. Had me on in the summer, Derek, and we had some interesting predictions of this season, but each of us had the Patriots and the Rams in the championship games, in the AFC and NFC championship games, but both of them losing.
Mm-hmm.
And I unfortunately picked the Packers to win the Super Bowl over the Jaguars. I think you had the Jaguars as well. But I want to pat on the back to both of us for having them at least that far, right?
Yeah, well, do you know how much I flopped this year? My predictions, dude. I mean, seriously, I had the Jaguars going deeper. I had the Saints going. I had the Falcons going. I think 14-2. What a flop!
You might have.
Oh my gosh!
Here on the screen, the Patriots are taking the field as a team, as they like to say. You know, and I did mention it earlier. Our Madden Sims have been pretty accurate. I mean, Denver did beat the Panthers in our first one, unfortunately, via a fake punt, which was equally as heartbreaking as the real one. And then Atlanta was beating the Patriots big in our second run, and the joke I made was that the EA Sports didn't program blowing a 25-point lead into the game. So Atlanta actually won that Super Bowl. And then last year, Philly did win against New England. So basically what I'm saying, Derek, is whatever happens here in the next, 35, 40 minutes or so is probably what's going to happen on Sunday.
It's weird, too. I got an email. And, of course, one of our listeners said, and he talked about the NFL app and how they did a Madden Sim. And their Madden Sim, honestly, to him, going through it, looked like it had all been, shall I say, rigged.
Okay, well, my friends think I play these things. Yeah.
Well, but you're simming it. We saw the button that says sim up there, right? I mean, come on.
Right. No, I'm saying that
live,
because
right?
the Patriots have never won a Keep PounDENN Madden Sim here, me being from Boston, my friends think that I rig these things. So.
Well, I hope you don't rig this one. Well, hold on.
Well, I would rig it in your favor, but but hey, let's talk about the non-digital Rams here, Derek. I mean, congratulations on a fun season at least, and you're welcome for our for our upgrade of CJ Anderson. We'll talk about him in a minute, but obviously when it comes to the Saints, it's tough to even have a discussion of them being in the Super Bowl without talking about what happened in New Orleans. As a fan, I mean, here we are wanting the Saints to lose for obvious Panthers reasons, but as a Rams fan, like, describe that whole few minutes of what happened on that play. I mean, obviously you can't sit there and say that's no flag, but how did you go about that? Because here I am just wanting the Saints to lose. How did you feel that it was your team?
Well, you never want to win dirty. You don't ever want to be. You don't want anything ever tainted. You don't want to go into a big game like this one, the biggest there is, and have the whole reason you're there tainted. And so, yeah, it was clearly a missed pass interference or personal foul, however you want to call it. The problem I have with it is the reaction afterwards by Saints fans and the media, the national media as well, and as well as local media. And the reason why I say that is because well, first, let me, full disclosure, I understand. Because to this day, there's a back of my mind feeling that the Rams got screwed in Super Bowl 36 against the Patriots. Years later, the whole idea of Spygate, in the back of my mind, the idea the walkthrough was watched, and
Well, that's
so
also
that
why we lost too.
well,
The following.
yeah. So in the back of my mind, I get it. But here's the thing: the Rams were penalized in that game 7 times. The Saints penalized 3 times. It was a poorly officiated game all around. There was no favorite here. Okay, I mean there was a missed roughing the passer call that should have been called on Aaron Donald. There was a 2 missed pass interference calls on Roby Coleman that didn't happen. But also on that very same play, if you go back and you watch the footage, and somebody did find it and put it on Rams Twitter, on that very same play where that happened, if you're watching from the behind the line image, you're seeing Aaron Donald taking a hand to the face, okay, and B, a very close to holding, if not holding, on Michael Brocker. So if anything, these are offsetting penalties if they call everything on that play, okay. But moreover, just the fight afterwards about, hey, you need to have a replay of this game from where it started. We need to change the rules. To me, that's now you're starting to go into an area where it's lack of sportsmanship.
Yeah.
And if you can go back and say, you know what, if that's how you want to play this game, if you want to replay, all right, let's go ahead and talk about that replay, because you know what, on the Rams' previous drive, Jared Goff took a face mask where the helmet was yanked around. Okay, that puts the Rams first.
You sure did. Sure did.
Yep. First and goal on the 1 yard line. The Rams will score from first and goal on the 1 yard line. They will. They're not very good in the red zone, but they're good inside the 1. They will pound you in there.
We used to be good inside the 1. Remember those days, Bobby? Give it a Mike Tolbert, right?
Yeah, I do.
You had the guy and you let him go, man.
I mean, here's my issue with the whole situation, Derek. You guys won that game. I don't give a damn what any Saints fan has to say. You guys won that game, and the reason why you won that game is there were just as many missed penalties for you guys as there were on the other end. The referees weren't just horrible on that last drive or that play; they were horrible throughout the game. As you mentioned, the Jared Goff penalty. There were 3 other face mask penalties that they did not call in that game against the Saints, and they let it go. How obvious can you be if you are a sideline official and the quarterback's head turns towards his shoulder and you continue to let the play run? I mean, nobody ever mentions that stuff when it happens against the Saints, but when it happens to the Saints, then everybody wants to complain. And listen, I get it. You're in New Orleans, you expect to get that call. It was blatant. I get it. But just as Roger Goodell said, the refs are human. As a Panthers fan, I always bring up Super Bowl 50. And I say, if you can't see, the refs are definitely human and they call what they want to call. Take a look at about 3 or 4 of those plays. Even after the game, you got guys like Aqib Talib admitting that they were purposely holding and pushing and committing pass interferences and waiting for the refs to throw the flag, and they never did. And we didn't get those flags, but the game is over. You get over it. You lost, you get over it. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. And while we should be celebrating the youth and the winning of Sean McVay, the winning of Jared Goff, a guy who they said would never work at quarterback that young, a guy who they said would never work at coach that young, a guy in Todd Gurley who they were skeptical about taking, a guy in Brandon Cooks who people thought like, well, maybe they shouldn't pay this guy the money, a guy in Aqib Talib where they said he was too old. You look over at Wade Phillips and guys said, well, he got it done in Denver. Can he get it done over in LA? And he did. So many questions were surrounding this franchise and this team. And you guys made it work. Looking at Ndamukong Suh, people said it would never work. I was one of those guys. I was saying he would never make a difference because he was a hothead. He made a difference. And instead of us celebrating the wins, we are allowing the Saints to take the Super Bowl hostage in their complaints, and it's ridiculous.
Well, another side to that too, as well, is you just mentioned Aqib Talib. You don't think that every one of these defenders will test the officials and see what they will and will not call. So if they call pass interference earlier in that game, do you think they're doing the things they're doing in the fourth quarter? No.
Right. Absolutely not.
But I'll tell you what else really bothered me. There was a play where I believe it was Todd Gurley was on the ground. It was Gurley or Everett. I forget who it was. And a Saints player came in and literally did the earthquake splash on a Rams player, and they did not call that.
It was like right foot first or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually pulled up the image of earthquake.
Yep. No, that was it. Was literally it was literally his finisher verbatim. I know I know exactly what you're talking about. But
so these players All of them. The Rams are going to do the same thing in the Super Bowl. They're going to
Yeah,
test and see what the officials will
and
call. So you're going to see some pass interferences, or should be, or could be, in the first quarter, because they're going to see what this group will and will not do.
that's what's hard about Roger Goodell today was talking at the down in Atlanta, and that's one of the hard things when it comes to like reviewing these calls, because I think what you said is true. Calls kind of do sometimes change throughout the game. It's something that was called in the first quarter, as much as it should be, sometimes is not called in the fourth quarter, and vice versa. And when you start having to review these things, I think that gets very difficult. But I'm touching upon something you said, Bobby, as far as the journey the Rams have had. Jared Goff was up there today talking about kind of some things that this team went through that at least LA fans may not have really considered. There was that whole Mexico City debacle where they were going to go ahead and going to go down there last minute. They're all together on the road so much, and then they have to come back to LA. And he talked about how that kind of strengthened them, and they all came together and kind of learned about each other. And I think the Rams' journey to the Super Bowl this year is a pretty fun one. And I don't think that's being talked about a lot, Derek, as far as how this was kind of a unique year for them, right? And even getting C.J. Anderson in the playoffs even made them a new team just a few weeks ago, right?
Well, they were an old and new, because early in the year the Rams were a running team then too, and they started getting away from who they were. And as they got away from who they were, a lot of their deficiencies came out. The Rams are a play action team. They don't have a whole lot of athleticism on the edges there on that side of the offensive line. They need to establish the run to keep that defense honest. And after a while, they just got pass happy. And teams like Chicago and Philadelphia really exposed that problem they had. So, in a lot of ways, the Todd Gurley injury, what it did was a blessing in disguise, because it forced the Rams to go back to who they were, to rethink things and commit to what we all know they're good at. The passing numbers were deceptive, because all their pass numbers early in the year really were fed off of that running game. And as the weeks built up to the Chicago game, you started seeing some changes in how teams are covering the Rams. Why? Because the Rams were moving away from the run, and they became that much more predictable. And by the way, that Madden simulation that's the ideal drive the Patriots want to have against the Rams.
I was going to say, eating the clock up there. We're already into the second quarter here. We have Derek on for the first half. Of course, we're going to have Dave Archibald hop on for the second half of this game. Patriots.
I want to call Dave Archie so bad, but go ahead.
Well, you should. Yeah, Dave Archie is his Twitter name. But looking at that drive kind of out of the side of my eye here, I mean, Patriots hit a lot of third downs there. That was pretty realistic to their Chiefs game. Long drive, finally put it in there, both on the ground, both in the air.
I don't think they're going to be able to do that, Dan.
We'll see. I mean, one of the things that we'll get into the key factors in a second, but as far as the coaches here, I mean, obviously, even I said it, experience. It's so easy to say experience wins. Experience is always going to get you more wins in the long run than, I guess, being there for your first time. There's so many guys here that are so young on the Rams. Obviously, McVay, 33, Goff, Gurley, going up against, it's kind of like a clash of the Titans here. Belichick, who I don't even know how old he is. Brady, guys that have
freaking Methuselah,
guys that have been to 5 Super Bowls. Yeah. But then people say experience doesn't matter. You can use examples of people winning in their first time. What about Sean McVay and this team? A lot of people are kind of doubting Jared Goff because of experience. What's your kind of counter to that, or do you have a counter?
My point of view, if this is last year or his first year, or in many other situations, I would be very much inclined for that. I would agree. But what people don't realize, though, is something changed with this franchise when they hired Sean McVay. I talked about on our show, the Rams teams used to be really unlikable. Like they were jerks. They lacked character in the field. We saw that a couple years ago. I think it was the game that Sam Bradford got hurt by Mike Mitchell, and the behavior of the Rams overall in that game was abhorrent. The way they behaved in the field, and we've seen a character change with this team. It used to be when they faced challenges, they wilted. I mean, they
Oh boy.
really, really wilted. Now
Sorry,
I see
I
that.
just yelled. They got it back. You got it back.
Okay. It used
Sorry,
to
I get
be
excited on turnovers in Madden.
when um, they would be against the wall, they would just fold.
Right.
And so something changed with this team now. And you saw it last year, and um, we saw it this year. This year was really specific because when they lost that game to the Bears, pretty much all around the nation went crazy. I did. And we're thinking, okay, now's the time. We're used to the Rams pulling this crap. The shoes are dropping. It's over and done with. Oh no! Oh no! They go out the next week and they lose to the Eagles, and they were getting blown out by the Eagles. They showed something in the second half. They dang near came back, and from that point forward, no one's really been stopping them. And then you realize that they just they took their lumps and they answered the challenge. Same thing with the Dallas game. No one expected them to run for 273 yards against Dallas.
Right.
And no one freaking expected them to go down to New Orleans and win that game. No one expected them when they're down 13-0, couldn't even get a play call because of the noise of that crowd to come back. What people don't realize with that Saints game is they dominated that game beginning of the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the numbers.
Once that fake punt happened, it was a different football team. It was weird. What? Look at Goff in the pocket going deep. Oh my God!
Who is
Give
this?
me this.
He dropped. Hey man, listen.
That was like an 80-yard pass. Wow.
I mean, when you start talking about coaches, man, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. There's only one coach that matters coming into this Super Bowl, and he is not a head coach at all. It's Wade Phillips. We saw what Wade Phillips was made of in the AFC Championship in 2015. How he went at Tom Brady, how they defended them, and to be honest with you, I think this Rams defense could potentially get the same amount of pressure as Denver's did. As far as the secondary is concerned, I don't know if they can lock up quite as much as Denver could, because that Denver defense was special, especially with Von Miller. However, with Wade Phillips being behind this machine, I just see a game plan coming into the Super Bowl where we may see Tom Brady have his worst Super Bowl performance ever, because Wade Phillips is extremely smart. He knows how to beat Belichick. You don't have to worry about beating Tom Brady. You have to worry about beating Bill Belichick. And he knows how to beat Bill Belichick. I mean, it's not tough to stop a 5-yard pass from Brady, right? So you have to outsmart Belichick. You have to have guys in the position to stop that James White dump of a negative 2-yard pass that turns into a 15-yard gain, you know? So you have to be on target to stop those things. But I think, Derek, my question for you is, how do you feel about this team compared to the team in 2000? You guys had Kurt Warner, you guys had like London Fletcher on the defense who was leading that defense. You had guys like Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce. I know that there aren't quite Hall of Fame names yet on this offense, which potentially may be someday. How do you feel about that offense compared to what you saw in 2000?
Well, they're night and day. The really thing that's different about that 2001 team and this team is, believe it or not, and no one will really mention it. Yeah, the Rams had the Hall of Famers, the guaranteed Hall of Famers. They had, one day Torrey Holt will be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know when, but one day he will be. Isaac Bruce may go in this weekend.
Yeah, he should.
And Marshall Faulk and Kurt Warner are already there. That's the crux of your weapons. You had also Asa Keem, third, your slot guy. But for the most part, the tight ends are garbage.
Wasn't Ricky Prohl on that team?
Ricky Prohl was there too, and a good possession receiver. But
man, the GOAT.
Yeah, we love Ricky over here.
He caught two touchdowns in the Super Bowl for us.
Yeah, but when I look at this Rams team now, they don't have that same top end talent. Like, I don't know if Robert Woods will ever be a Hall of Famer, and I don't know if Brandon Cooks will be. Okay, he may, but in terms of all the skill positions, all the pieces, offensively, they have more talent there. They do. Both tight ends are capable in developing. And that's something that was another blessing from the Gurley injury and from the Cooper Kupp injury, was that they actually had to invest time developing those tight ends. And then the second part too as well is receivers wise, even with Cooper Kupp out, you now have Reynolds, Woods, and Brandon Cooks alongside those tight ends, and two running backs out of the backfield who are both more than capable of going 100 yards. They are much, much more diverse in the skill positions than the 2001 team was. Again, the 2001 team, to me, had more talent top end, but across the board, they didn't have that. Now, defensively as well, that year, the Rams went to the Super Bowl in 2001. They got a bunch of draft picks, and invest heavily in that defense. And for the most part, those draft picks were good for 1 year, and that was 2001. From 2002 on, that defense went downhill, and most of those members of that defense wound up either going somewhere else or being out of the league.
Yeah.
So actually, in a lot of ways, that's a failed draft, and that's one of the reasons why the Greatest Show on Turf didn't last as long as it should have. This defense here, going across the board, you have more proven talent, A, and in this game for this defense, they're a better matchup for the Patriots. You're worried about Marcus Peters. You're not going to worry about Marcus Peters in this game. He's not going to get blown deep by anybody.
Yeah.
Who's going to blow him deep? He
Nobody.
can play zone back there, okay? Because the Patriots don't have the top end speed. They traded it away to us. Okay,
Derek, in digital land, Tom Brady is carving up this secondary. I just wanted to let you know that.
I mean, to be fair, Tom
I think he's 8 for 8
missing,
here.
Yeah, Tom is missing what we thought was going to be a great addition in Josh Gordon. So to be fair, he could have had somebody to take that deep shot too. But right now, there's no deep threat.
Wow.
Yeah, there's no deep threat.
With that one.
And he's throwing the ball more than 7 yards downfield. Who saw that coming?
Oh, apparently Chris is here. Hey, what's up, Chris?
Hey, I've been here, man.
Chris is our other co-host too, who just snuck on here.
Chris, the spy that shagged me.
Yeah. Hey, Derek. Well, you were just talking about the offense, though. One thing that the Patriots pride themselves with is taking away the best player. Right? You play the Steelers, they take away Brown or Bell. They make you win with guys that not so much that you haven't heard of, but guys you wouldn't expect. I mean, David Tyree, right? That's my point is. So if you're the Rams, right, and you say that Belichick's going to take away X, Y, whatever, who needs to step up? Do you think to like obviously Gurley's going to have a big circle. Obviously Woods. Who's the guy that really needs to have an above average at least game for the Rams because they can't just target their 1 and 2.
But then that's what I'm talking about. Okay. This offense has so many dudes who contribute that it's really hard to just say, well, this other guy needs to step up. If you're going to put me on the spot and say this other guy needs to step up, that will get ball, someone gets ball down. I'm going to say Gerald Everett, the tight end.
Like, I guess that's my question. Okay. A game by X will go such a long way, is what I'm saying.
To me, if Gerald Everett comes out there and becomes a guy underneath, one, remember his name.
Mm-hmm.
Remember his name because his development is huge. He is fast for a tight end, very fast. He can make dynamic catches, but he's inconsistent. A young kid's inconsistent and still raw. They've been using him more, and if they smother Cooks and they smother Woods and Reynolds, but they won't, by the way, get all three of those guys smothered, then watch what they do with the tight ends, especially a guy like Everett. Okay, Everett can be a huge difference maker. He can be their Gronk, or actually, this is good. This is hot take time. He has the potential, the physical gifts to one day be better than Gronk.
Wow.
I'm not saying he will be, but just his physical tools. Okay, he can be better than Gronk.
Wow, Brady finally pressured and
Big
sacked
sack.
out of field goal range here.
Yeah,
Looking to
big
go up
sack.
2 here. We have you on for about another minute here, Derek. As we go into the half, what looks like will be 7-0 New England. Let's just talk about Sunday, man. I mean, as far as your unbiased fan opinion, what realistically happens in this game?
Oh boy,
we know what you want to happen. If you were a betting man on this game, what
I called the game Rams 28-24, which is kind of bugging me because Tony Romo did the same thing.
I was just gonna say
somebody 28-24. He wouldn't say who.
He wouldn't say who, but for some reason he said whoever the 24 team has the ball at the end and can't score.
I'll say this: the Rams are a good matchup for the Patriots, except for one area. The Patriots, that short game for the Patriots is a problem.
Which is literally all they do.
It's all they do now.
18 passes behind the line of scrimmage for Brady in that Chargers game.
Well, and they had 94 plays overall in the last game out. You got to cut that down. So, to me, the one thing the Rams did in the Saints game was when Kamara was beating them bad, they could not stop that dude. They really just focused on a basic fundamental thing. They started, everybody on the line just started chipping dudes and knocking them off the routes.
Yeah.
Okay. And, the one thing about they have all these guys who are great route runners. Okay. They don't have a whole lot of speed to get past all that. to make up the time on those routes. So to me, it's a simple fix, but it's not simple execution. The Patriots are good at this stuff, man. And so I believe the Rams have all the tools to beat the Patriots. I really do. I believe that offensively, their strengths match up well against the Patriots' weaknesses. Okay, and that's why I'm saying Rams 28-24.
I like it.
I mean, it's going to be close. The Patriots have never blown anybody out in the Super Bowl. They've never been blown out in the Super Bowl, although they came close. Atlanta,
they should have been.
How dare
yes.
they? But I keep going back to this team's character, and the Rams Rams just have a ton of character, more than I've seen in this franchise in an awful long time, and I would say among the best in the league in terms of character. I mean, this group really, truly loves playing together, and that means a lot. Now, that what I see on your scoreboard right now being 6 total yards, it's not happening.
As we go into halftime here, and we're going to let you go in a minute and bring on Dave, but I think one of the biggest things, obviously, is to remember, and if you want to talk about experience with the Rams, is that it is a 60-minute game against the Patriots. Not only do you have to come out fast, you have to play and finish fast. And I think the Rams are a team that can do that, especially with how they have showed that they can turn it on in the second half themselves. So I think this is going to be a very fun second half on Sunday.
And don't be surprised if the Rams start slow in this game. Don't be surprised if they commit to the run early, and it's they may even fall behind. But I would think come second quarter we're going to know real quick how this team. If they don't settle in, they're in trouble. If they settle in, look for them to really kind of eventually pull this out. I honestly believe that.
All right, man. Well, I'm at least rooting for you. I want to see the Rams take this. Mostly for Sean McVay. I want to see a guy younger than me win a Super Bowl as a coach. I think that's so cool. And yeah, we appreciate everything you do over at Rams Talk, having us on in the summer. That was fun. Hopefully we can do that again and give some terrible predictions.
Yeah, well, we're going to do we all made the agreement to get back on to do an end of year. That's coming soon. All those guys, Garrett Sisti and the guys from
and I love the guys over at the Rock Pile Report, how they bet Seagrams to pound on and we actually bet a lot of them. So if you listen back to that, we might have to have a few of those on air. But Derek,
don't forget we've got the Rams in Charlotte this year.
We do. We get the Rams in Charlotte. So maybe
when Norm lives out there now. So when you guys get connect with Norm, maybe you guys do a live joint podcast. That would be pretty cool.
I love that. Anyway, Derek, again, good luck on Sunday, and we'll hope to talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Cool, man.
Seeing you, brother. Man.
Right, see you. Take care.
And we'll be back. We're just going to take a quick break here. We're going to bring on Dave Archibald here for the second half. We're going to talk Pats here, unfortunately. And we're just going to throw this on mute here while we get him on the line. But we'll be right back. And thanks for hopping on the annual, very official, Keep PounDEN Madden Sim. Talk to you in a minute. All right, joining us now. We told him he could come on whenever the Panthers play the Patriots, whenever the Patriots are in the Super Bowl, and he's basically watched every Madden Sim with us. Welcoming back our friend Dave Archibald from Inside the Pylon. He's over at Dave Archie on Twitter. And Dave, this is becoming a regular thing now. I think I like it, but I'm not sure because I'm always watching your team playing Madden here. How you doing tonight?
Always great to chat with you guys, and also if it means the Patriots are in the Super Bowl, that's great by me.
There you go.
You guys are some freaking spoiled fans, man.
You know, it's
for sure.
Bobby,
God,
it's been a long time since the championship here. October was, was like a long time ago.
I hate the city of Boston. I hate everything.
You can't say that. I love Boston.
I can say it.
That's one thing.
Celtics, the Red Sox.
People confuse me with being a
God,
Boston hater. I don't hate Boston. I love this city. I just hate the Patriots, and they don't play in Boston, so whatever.
Dude, like, how do you guys react if no one makes the playoffs?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen that in a
You
long
don't know?
time. Yeah.
God.
The Bruins didn't make the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
That's gotta be worth something.
Dave, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Bobby.
Good to hear you again, man. Hey, listen, I got a question for you. I don't know what Den's questions are, but I do have a question for you. Do you have to change the game plan going into the Super Bowl, or are you going to depend on the? I'm going to say it. I'm a player hater of Tom Brady, and are you going to depend on the dink and dunk offense?
So the Patriots always mix up their game plan, but I think the short passing game makes sense in terms of you look at their receivers, they don't have a lot of size, they don't have a lot of speed. They have guys with great, short area separation quickness. And it also takes the pressure off the offensive line to have to, pass block for 4 or 5 seconds. And that was important against the Chargers pass rush and against the Chiefs pass rush. And it's going to be important against the Rams too. One thing is Wade Phillips has done a pretty good job, even and the Patriots have had some success against him, and Tom Brady's had some success against him. And there are other games where Phillips got the better end of it, but he's tended to make them have to throw deep more than they usually do. So that'll be interesting to watch. Can they do it? Do they have the right personnel to do that?
Right.
I'm interested to see it.
Yeah, and we just had Derek Ciapala on he was on Rams Talk podcast, and he mentioned that the Rams actually, their weakness, I guess, is the short pass game. So that's kind of scary when you go up against the Patriots, because Bobby, you mentioned do they change the game plan? Maybe, but we've seen a lot of different Patriots this year. I mean, we saw You know what I'm saying? They've been a different team. All of a sudden they show that zero blitz against the Chargers. Of course, that's the defensive side of the ball. They've been a running machine in some games. They've been a passing machine in some games. Obviously the losses were really bad as far as them not being able to move the ball. And it kind of begs the question, like, as stupid as this sounds, Dave. I mean, they talked about it on the Sports Hub. Like, do you think the Patriots kind of, in a way, like, I hate to use the word rope-a-dope, but like it almost seemed like that, right? Like they almost like weren't, especially in that Detroit game.
I think if Bill Belichick could push a button and win every game, he would push a button and win every game. I think they've been unusually inconsistent, and they've definitely shown the ability to play really good run defense, really good pass defense, run the ball well, pass the ball well. But there have been games where one or more of those units just didn't show up, especially on the road. So, they're playing arguably their best football of the season, but their previous best stretch, they won 5 in a row and then went to Tennessee and just got the doors blown.
Well, and that's another thing. Let me ask, like, this is another conspiracy that I guess have and others do, is that whenever the Patriots play their ex-players or ex-coaches, I think historically, especially Belichick, that they've either struggled or lost. And you can say, yeah, they know what they're doing, but there's another side of it that was mentioned, and it might have been on the Sports Hub or something, but in the fact that, okay, if you have, like, say in Detroit, like Matt Patricia, you know how to stop the Patriots. Well, at least you on paper. I mean, you know weaknesses. You know where to attack them. In a sense, like, do the Patriots almost pull out a vanilla game plan in that game to not show their hand, to not show how to beat them? Is that crazy to say, or do you think that that's kind of true? Because all the teams they lose to are ex-coaches and ex-players. And
I don't know. They beat Bill O'Brien every time.
That's true too, I guess. But
I don't know. Maybe, but they played they played bad in some other games too. I mean, they could not stop Miami in that second meeting at all, even before the crazy lateral play. I mean,
Right.
they they usually light up Pittsburgh, and they had a lot of trouble with Pittsburgh offensively this year. So I don't know. It's been a weird season, but they
Yeah.
do seem to be peaking at the right time.
And Dave, I got a question for you, man. And as by the way, who you guys that are following the sim, Todd Gurley just went down for the Rams. So
Uh-oh.
this
CJ.
will get interesting. Yeah, it'll get real interesting. So quick question for you, man. A a guy, a name who has not, to me, gotten as much love as he should have. Maybe he's gotten more touchdown Rams, by the way.
Big
Maybe he's
touchdown.
gotten more
That Bobby
up in
Woods. Oh,
Boston.
Brandon
Uh,
Cooks, by the way.
yeah, Brandon Cooks. Nice payback, I guess you could say. Um, Maybe a name who's gotten much love up in Boston, but Sony Michel. Um, I wanted him in the draft. I thought he would. I was hoping we could snag him in like the third round. I don't know, but to me, he's been that guy, and he could potentially be that guy come Sunday that alters everything. That will probably keep Tom Brady from having to throw the ball 40 times. I believe that guy could possibly be, and I'm going to throw his name out there as a Super Bowl MVP. That's how great I think he is. And the way that Bill Belichick uses him, he uses him to the best of his ability. And I don't know. I just want to get your thoughts on Sony because I haven't heard much from him in the media, oddly enough. I just want to hear your thoughts on him.
I mean, I think if he plays the way he has the past couple of weeks against the Chargers and the Chiefs, he could definitely win Super Bowl MVP. Um, the run game has been going well. They have a good run blocking offensive line. They ran the ball well last year, but I think Michelle brings even a little more to it. I mean, and Deion Lewis was very good, but Michelle's a little bigger guy, and they've been willing to ride him more. Um, that'll be interesting because the Rams, they finished the season dead last in yards per carry against. They allowed like 5.1 or 5.2 yards per carry in the regular season, but their run defense has been much better in the playoffs. So I don't know what to expect. On paper, you think that they would want to run the ball, but it might not be as easy as paper suggests.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, speaking of paper, I mean, I'm looking at the tail of the tape here. The Rams almost win in every category versus the Patriots when you go to total offense and defensive ranks. Patriots really only winning on the defensive side of the ball. In defensive scoring, they're 7th in the league. And defensive against the rush, they're 11th in the league. Mm-hmm. Every other statistic, offensive scoring, rushing, passing, defensive total let up, and defensive passing against, the Rams are taking this, and in most cases on the offensive side are top 5. Not something you've seen a lot against the Patriots in Super Bowls, Dave, though, huh?
Well, I think it's been a little bit of a down year for the Patriots. Some of that was, they had those couple of bad games early in the season when Edelman was suspended and before Gordon got going. But of course, Gordon's not going to be here now. And they played, some kind of lousy offensive games at weird times. So I think, again, they're kind of inconsistent. I guess the consoling part is that the Rams don't seem to have been quite as hot offensively since Cooper Kupp went down. Specifically, Goff's numbers weren't as good in the second half of the season. So, I don't know if they're quite what they look like on paper either.
Yeah, Goff was a little worrisome in the first half against New Orleans, but they ended up turning that one around, obviously. But, it's every time a team has a great defensive line, in my head, I'm like, oh, that's good, whatever. But it's almost like it doesn't matter when it comes to the Patriots and Tom Brady, especially with how quickly he gets rid of the ball and what Dante Skonecki has done with that line this year. And especially with how much those guys get paid compared to other offensive lines. It's pretty remarkable. But do the Rams actually bring like a threat, I guess? Usually, obviously to the Panthers, we would be terrified of Aaron Donald and But when it comes to the Patriots, like I said, you're either there immediately or Tommy's already got rid of that ball. How much of a impact do you think the Rams defensive line poses to the offensive line for the pass in this game, as good as they've been?
I mean, I think that's maybe the question of the game, because the Patriots offensive line has been playing great. Brady's been able to get rid of the ball very fast, which has made the line look even better. But Brady, his pocket movement is so good. He's so good at stepping up around edge pressure, and he gets rid of the ball really quickly. But some of these plays, man, my ITP compatriot Mark Schofield just put up an article on Inside the Pylon about Aaron Donald, and some of those plays. I mean, he is in the backfield right away. And when the defensive tackle gets that penetration up the middle, there's not a lot any quarterback can do, but especially a guy like Brady who, isn't very mobile. So I think if you're going to get to Brady, that's where you have to get him. Now, they did a good job with Chris Jones last week. He got kind of banged up in the second half of that, but that two-headed monster with Donald and Sue, that's pretty scary.
So it's kind of the Drew Brees solution, if you will. Where everyone says you have to get that guy up the middle, more so because he can't see, but also because he's so good at stepping up. Brady's the same way, I think, and just getting your hands up in general can stop those side throws, right? I mean, it's Brady is carving up this Rams secondary, though, man. Chris Hogan is abusing Marcus Peters, by the way, in this sim, Dave. How worried about you? How worried are you about, or are you worried at all about that secondary? Because Derek was just on in the first half, not worrying too much about Marcus Peters letting up things over the top. Says they don't have a receiver to really worry about blowing the top off of this defense. What either challenges or weaknesses do you see in the Rams secondary? Because they get some names out there as well. I mean, Talib, Peters, and whatnot. Anything that worries you as far as the physicality of them as well?
Well, I mean, the Patriots, where they like to play is in the middle of the field. So, I mean, Edelman probably isn't going to spend much time on the outside matched up against Talib. He's, likely going to be matched on Nickel Roby-Coleman. And, Roby Coleman
plays by the rules. Yeah.
He's a pretty decent slot guy, but I like that matchup for the Patriots. And of course, if the Rams decide to mix things up and move guys around, now you've got people playing in parts of the field they might not be useful or used to, and that might open up other things. So, I mean, yeah, I don't see them, bombing it out to Chris Hogan matched up against Marcus Peters very much in this game. I think it's going to be a lot of, working the middle, working those slot receivers, working the matchups on the linebackers with White and Gronkowski and, trying to run the ball. And then just throwing outside where they have to keep the Rams honest.
Yeah, and one thing we didn't talk about was the new, I guess we should call it, running game of the Rams with C.J. Anderson and Gurley. Patriots have been pretty good against the run this year, 11th in the league against the rush.
But not very efficient on a yards per carry basis. I think they're sort of like the Rams where, they got run on at times this year, but the run defense has looked a lot better the last, couple of weeks.
Okay. Brandon Cooks in this game. We talked about a guy that Bill knows, or that Bill knows he has to shut down. You think there's a big circle on Brandon Cooks this week as far as basically not being a factor in this game, or do you see Cooks being a problem to this Patriots defense, knowing them and how they play?
Well, I think if they want to take him away the way they took away Tyreek Hill against the Chiefs, they can do that. But they basically dedicated two guys to Tyreek Hill the entire game. And, they were able to do that and limit Kelsey. But then you saw in the second half, the Chiefs started to get to them by throwing to the running back and by throwing to Sammy Watkins. So, I think if the Patriots, if they double Cooks, they maybe put Gilmore, their best corner, on Robert Woods, and maybe that's a decent matchup. But then, what do they do about Gurley? What do they do about Josh Reynolds and the tight ends? Who wins those matchups? I think that's a good question. And the Rams are so good at being able to do a lot of things well. And those, I think, are the offenses that give the Patriots defense the most problems. If they know there's just one or two things they have to take care of, they can take care of them. When they have to worry about 4 or 5 things, eventually you run out of guys.
Ooh, big play by the Rams there. I was just going to say the Patriots are about 3 yards away from winning this game. It's now 3rd and 3. Dave, you have it up there on your screen as well, so I don't have to describe it to you this year like I did last year. But
hey, Dave, quick question.
Interesting pass there by the Pats, though. That's like a Saints-like blunder. You got to run that ball.
Dave, quick question for you.
Yeah.
3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, however you want to look at it, we saw Belichick versus Wade Phillips.
There it is. That might be the game, Dave. You might have your first Madden simulation win. Sorry to cut you off, Bobby.
No, you're good. That'll definitely do it. Rams out of timeouts, it looks like. So we saw it before, and we saw Wade Phillips get the absolute best of Tom Brady in that game. How do you see this now? Again, just like I told Derek earlier, we don't have a Von Miller on this defense, but they do have an Aaron Donald. They do have an Ndamukong Suh. They do have a Aqib Talib. They do have Marcus Peters. How do you think that game years ago applies to this game? Because to me, the Patriots offense hasn't changed much, but Wade Phillips does have a huge change as far as personnel.
Yeah, and I think the key is that you have to marry that rush with coverage. And I think that's where the Rams are a little more of a question mark. You think about that Broncos team, you had Talib in his prime, you had Chris Harris, who could defend the slot as well as outside. And then you had some good, some really rangy linebackers in the middle and some underrated defensive tackles. I mean, that was a stacked defense. And the other thing is the Patriots were dealing with a lot of offensive injuries that year. You had Nate Solder out for the season. So they were playing Sebastian Vollmer in his final NFL game at left tackle and Marcus Cannon at right tackle. And they have a lot, I think, better offensive line now. And I think the Rams, they do present some of the, some similar challenges, but this Patriots team has been really healthy since the season started. I mean, you don't want to jinx it, but I don't think they had anyone in the injury report. I've never seen that. They have no one in the injury report.
Yeah, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you guys had 2 tight ends trying to play linemen that year, right? Offensive linemen. Because I think you guys got the most offensive line rotations that year, or something like 21 different combinations that year.
I think that was the year before, early in the season. Yeah, but they, the line is really stabilized. I mean, they've got Mason and Tooney at the guards have been really good, and Dave Andrews at center. And that was the other thing, because that game was in Denver, and they didn't vary the silent snap count, and so Von Miller was just getting off the line of scrimmage, right at the snap, and just killing all game.
Oh man, I don't know what that's like at all. That's weird.
Congratulations to the Patriots.
Yeah, Patriots winning our sim, Dave.
So this makes it a lock for the Rams, right?
No, our sim is pretty accurate. Like I said, Chris, the only time our sim was wrong was when they had Atlanta winning big, and then they won big, and I said that EA Sports didn't program blowing a 25-point lead into the game. So, but it did predict the Broncos over the Panthers and the Eagles over the Patriots last year. So we'll see, Dave. You have the Madden Sim on your side if you want to run to a casino right now and throw some. What is the spread, by the way? Aren't the Rams favored?
I thought the Patriots were favored by 2.5.
I don't even know. I haven't even looked.
I mean, the Patriots are still pulling the underdog card because that's how they roll.
Which is ridiculous, Dave, because...
Which is absolutely
ridiculous. How seriously, do people in Boston really rally around that?
The problem is
everyone loved Michael Jordan because he wouldn't let it go that he got cut from his high school team as a sophomore.
But no, I get
These
it.
people are crazy pants.
But the problem is,
it's
like stupid people, like Max Kellerman or whatever his name is, and like Stephen A. Smith made up their boards, and they doubted the Patriots. Like doubting the Patriots means they're not going to make it to the Super Bowl, and that they're going to lose in the AFC Championship. Like
before the season
even
started,
no one doubted them ever.
Yeah. Before the season started, they were picked to win the Super Bowl. Like I don't understand that. Before the season started, they were picked to win the Super Bowl.
Me and Derek, who was just on, you'll laugh at this, but this is in August, Dave. We picked we did a full playoff, who wins the divisions and who wins the Super Bowl. I had the Patriots and the Rams both in the championships, but I had them both losing to the Jaguars and the Packers. For some reason, I thought the Packers were going to be awesome this year. I thought they did enough in the draft with their secondary, with Jair Alexander, Josh Jackson, and the reemergence of Aaron Rodgers. And I never saw Khalil Mack coming to the Bears, not thinking the Bears would be good. I figured if the Packers can make the playoffs, they'd be a team to beat. My PlayStation hates me now. I'm going to switch over to my view. But yeah, I picked the Packers to win the Super Bowl, as stupid as that sounds. But we both had these two teams in the championship games. And when it comes to calling the Patriots underdogs, like, even as a fan, like, is that the right word? Like, maybe everyone wanted them to lose and didn't think they were as good. But did anyone ever think they wouldn't make the AFC Championship game?
No, I mean, they literally haven't been. I don't. Maybe they were slight underdogs against the Chiefs, like literally, but literally every other game they've been favorites.
Well, I can definitely tell you they're not an underdog heading into the Super Bowl. They're favored by 2.5 points. So.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
But, these guys, whatever they need to do to keep the fire burning, they're going to do. That's what makes them crazy athletes. I don't know. Tom Brady doesn't eat tomatoes. I'm going to eat tomatoes, but whatever Tom needs to do is fine by me.
Yeah, I mean, it's, to be fair, man, players are going to do what they got to do to psych themselves up or to find any extra motivation wherever they can. I mean, kudos to him. Kudos to him for not being complacent and being satisfied with this just being another Super Bowl for him. He's looking to go in with some type of psyche and win it. Kudos to him.
Yeah. And speaking of, he was asked about his retirement. But was it Devin McCourty? Yeah, Devin McCourty was kind of gave a vague answer there. If the Patriots do win this, Dave, like they just did in our Madden Sim, thanks for joining along on our social networks, guys. Do you see anyone this being their last game?
I think it's going to be a real interesting offseason because Brady, Gronk, Devin McCourty, I think Edelman, they're all signed through 2019, but at pretty big cap figures. So it's going to be real interesting to see who gets extended, who retires, who gets traded or cut. They, try to bring back Trey Flowers or Trent Brown. It's going to be a really interesting offseason with the Patriots. Hopefully talking about stuff like that and not about, Brady and Belichick hate each other or whatever nonsense from this past offseason.
Yeah.
So Dave, before you go, quick question. Kind of a yes or no. Could Garoppolo have done exactly what Brady did this season and been in the Super Bowl right now?
Well, Garoppolo's got to show he can get through, 5 games without hurting himself first.
Well, I mean, as far as the Patriots offense.
You can't ask him that. He's obviously going to say no to that.
No, I can't. Yeah. I want an honest answer because to me, this Patriots offense has never missed anything other than when Jacoby Brissett was behind quarterback when Matt Castle was there and Jimmy Garoppolo. We basically saw the same offense. So I'm just curious as far as, with the Patriots lens on, because I'm sure you know far more about the Patriots than I do, the intricacy of the offense.
I know what you're getting at. I heard you guys last week and Bobby, you saying
player hater of Brady.
I think, some of it comes down to whether you see quarterback as a splash position or a consistency position. Obviously, Brady isn't going to make the splash plays that a Mahomes or an Aaron Rodgers or a Cam Newton is going to make. He can't make those plays with his legs. He doesn't have as strong an arm as those guys. He's not going to make crazy throws on the run. What he does is there are, 70 offensive plays in a game, and he's going to be super consistent. So it's like, who's better, Tony Gwynn or Mark McGuire?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's
Yeah.
it's not really the same thing. It's
No, and I
he
hate
is
the
excellent
quarterback
because
comparison.
he does so much pre-snap. He's able to identify the open guy so quickly, and he's able to get rid of it so quickly, and that fits in perfectly into the group they've assembled and the offensive line they've assembled. I think the jury's still out on whether Garoppolo can bring that, with the same level of consistency. He looked great last year. He looked great in those, that game and a half in 2016. He didn't look quite as good this year, but it's early in his career, so
Yeah.
I'm skeptical, but
yeah.
Yeah.
And well, on that same thing, Derek Klassen tweeted out today that basically what I've said forever, and I was like so happy to see him say it, was Tom Brady's a very, very good quarterback, and being on a team that is the best at player management, cap management, getting the right players, and having one of the best coaches of all time puts him miles and miles above where he would be, I think, on another team. And people that love Brady and think that the greatest of all time, greatest human being of all time, will scoff at that. But I think that's a realistic way to put it, and that's not a dig at him. He's just him on the Patriots is just beyond a perfect fit, and
I don't think
it shows,
Brady would be as good without Belichick. I don't think Belichick would be as good without Brady.
And there's stats to prove that. Yeah, I mean, Bill wasn't a great coach before Brady either.
Yeah, and I mean, Josh McDaniels hasn't done that much in the seasons where he hasn't had Brady, but we've never seen Brady without Belichick, so who knows?
Yep.
Right.
Anyway, wrapping it up here, the Patriots do win our 2019 Keep PounDEN official, very official, almost undefeated Riot Report Super Bowl sim. I had fun with my Cam Jordan wine here in my Roaring Riot cup, which I think you can still buy on the roaringriot.com in the shop section. If it's not there, you can probably find something else you like. I'm not 100% sure if they have these, but anyway. Final question, Dave. Key factors Sunday. We talked to Derek about how the Patriots are so good at taking away the number one weapon. Obviously, there's Gurley and there's Woods. Other players need to step up, and you can say that kind of on the Patriots side too. Offensive and defensively, who are two kind of key factors in this game for you? To that like I said, if you do have to shut down Gurley, who's the guy that has to have the big game, or even Woods? And same thing with offensively. Who are the key factors on both sides of the ball for you?
Well, as a Patriots fan, the guys I'm worried about are that Donald Sue combination in the middle. I think they can take out one of them, but the math says they can't take out both of them. So if they double team Donald, is Sue gonna just wreck them? And then the other question is, if they can do a pretty good job on Woods and Cooks, can they still defend the run? Can they still defend Gurley in the passing game? And can they defend, kind of the tertiary weapons that the Rams have?
So if you had to name a key player, who you got?
For the Rams, I'd say Gurley, and for the Patriots, I'd say that who wins that Tooney against Sue matchup. Let's say.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's always good talking to you, Dave. Even in these circumstances, I'm sure we'll talk to you. I think that we'll be playing the Patriots in Gillette if all goes according to history. In the summer. Last year was in Charlotte, so maybe not, maybe so. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I guess all we can say is congrats again on another another tough year of winning that AFC East. And I mean, honestly, Dave, did you think that you would as a Patriots fan would have a bye week in the playoffs?
Like when I was growing up?
No, I'm sorry. I mean this year.
Oh, this season?
Yeah, like I'm talking like, I don't know, week 13. Like you didn't look at the Patriots as a bye week team, did you?
I mean, it's tough because you kind of compare them to past Patriots teams,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't seem to be quite as good. But then when you compared them to like, Pittsburgh, and I mean, none of those teams were
Yeah.
flawless, certainly. And when you compared them to those teams, you felt a little better about it. When you compare them to like the 2004 Patriots, you're like, this team isn't nearly as good.
Right. It's almost like the AFC went down as they did. It's really a weird thing. But anyway, I hope Sunday's game's good. All I ask, like, I don't know. All I ask in
Don't
Super
lie,
Bowls
Dan.
is
You don't want the Patriots to win. Stop
no.
lying, man.
I don't want them to win, and I just like a good game though.
I'm just messing with you, man.
Even if the Patriots win, I just or lose, I don't want it to be just a game that's over at halftime. You don't want that in a Super Bowl.
Right.
Well, all the
So-
past
Kinda like
Super Bowls
Seattle.
have been exciting. So
Well, and then even if you think the game's over at halftime, Lady Gaga comes out, and all of a sudden it's not over. So
Hey, I'm absolutely okay with that. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you very much, Dave, for taking care of the Falcons for us. We genuinely appreciate it. We're forever indebted.
that'll be an interesting time down there in Atlanta. But anyway, Dave, always good to talk to you. Dave's over at Dave Archie on Twitter. Always does awesome work for InsideThePylon.com. Anything? I know you guys do your draft guide every year.
yeah,
Or is
I
that
don't
still a thing
know.
that's happening? Or you did it last year at least?
yeah, I don't know what's going on with that this year, but yeah, we always have good stuff. I told you about that Mark Schofield piece.
Mhm.
Jeff Baird just wrote a neat piece, imagining there were playoff MVPs instead of just Super Bowl MVPs. So that's a cool read. So go check that out. InsideThePylon.com.
Love it. Well, we'll be down at the draft in Nashville, and we'll have you on down there. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking about some draft pick. Obviously, the Patriots making a huge draft pick that didn't even really see the field this year for them this year with Isaiah Wynn. We talk about how good that offensive line is without him on the field. So it'll be good to talk to you, especially with this offseason, like you mentioned, with the cap hits coming up, where they look to in the draft. So we'll talk to you down in Nashville. How's that sound?
Sounds great. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Awesome. Dave Archibald again, Inside the Pylon at Dave Archie. That's going to do it for us tonight as well. Patriots do take down the Rams in a very low-scoring game, by the way. Not the 28-24 Tony Romo / Derek Ciapala prediction, but it did come down to the wire. Patriots win it. We'll see what happens Sunday. Thanks for hopping on with us here on the Riot Report Super Bowl Sim. Check out the RiotReport.com. Again, a big sale going on right now for some merch. And, of course, that London trip's coming up. So we'll have some more details on that as well. Have a good night tonight. And check us out on the RiotReport.com. You can watch us back on the website, on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and we'll throw it up on Instagram as well. And keep pounding, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Keep pounding.